Welcome, everyone, to the Classy Career Girl podcast. I am excited to introduce you to Renae Fieck today. She is a mom of three and a business strategist helping high achieving women scale their businesses without burnout or overworking, which we all need. After her husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor, seizures, and three kids under 6, she decided to build a business that allowed her to live the life of her dreams now, not one day in the future. And so this is the message that Renae sent me when we were coordinating this. And I was like, we need to have Renae on. She said, something I see all the time with the women I coach and honestly live through myself too, is how many women are trying to build businesses using productivity models that were never designed for the female body. So we're going to be talking about that today, because we're trying to grow businesses, raise babies, manage homes, show up for everyone. And she says somehow we're still operating on the same level every single day, and it's exhausting. And so I love your mission, Renae, of helping women find permission to build the life and business of their dreams in a way that works for them. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. It is such an honor to be here.
Awesome. This is going to be fun. So tell me first about your journey into entrepreneurship, how this started for you as a busy mom. What was this like?
Yeah. So like you said, I was an occupational therapist. I had 2 young kids at the time and found out I got my dream job. Like I'd always wanted to work at the children's hospital. And so I got offered a job at the children's hospital pretty much the same week as my husband being diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so we spent that next year, and finding out I was pregnant, like all three of those things at the same time. And so we spent that next year really kind of navigating brand new baby. My husband couldn't drive because of all the seizures and the surgery and stuff that he was having. And so I was managing life at home. I didn't realize at the time like how impactful it was, like me being the solo driver. And so me having to drive him back and forth to work, drive my kids back and forth to school, going back and forth to the hospital myself, and just being pretty much everything for that 1 year. Wow. And drowning really, and wanting to be able to be home with my kids. I realized how fast they were growing, and I knew that it was going to go by in a blink of an eye and they were going to be grown and out of my house. And now having a 15-year-old, I'm like, how it goes by so fast. And really got to that place where I was like, I don't want to wait till they're in school, or they're, something shifts, or we have more money, or any of these things, for us to feel like we're actually living our lives, because we don't know. Tomorrow could be the last day, walking into my husband's the OR after he'd had surgery and just wondering, like, is this the moment that's going to forever change the course of our lives? And we don't know. We don't know when that moment's going to happen or what's going to happen on tomorrow. And so I started really living with that question of, are we living today in a way that if I died tomorrow, I would be totally satisfied with the way we lived, and I'd be happy with how I showed up. And that's what led me into starting a business. But like most moms, I think, is like I started a network marketing company, or with network marketing, and very quickly got back on that same wheel of hustling and pushing. But now I was squeezing it into the cracks of, I was at the hospital and I'm pumping. I remember being with my pump, eating my lunch and messaging people on Instagram or wherever at the same time, like squeezing in those work hours. And a couple years into it, reaching out to my mentor, I was like, hey, I'm not hitting the goals I'd have. I don't know what's happening, whatever. And she's like, business is just a numbers game. So if you're not hitting the numbers, you just got to do more. And at the time, I was like, there's no more to give. Like, how do I give more when I'm already giving at every ounce of my time? And that was kind of the moment I decided is either A, business isn't going to work for me and I can't do this, or B, I need to figure something else out, like whether it's productivity, whether it's time management, whether it's habits. And that's what I did. I read like The Miracle Morning and Atomic Habits and all of the things around, how do we become more effective at what we're doing, and how do we use and leverage our time better? And in that process is when I learned how men and women's hormones really impact us, and that women are not mini men and we don't function the same way as men. And so those days when I felt like I was just not being consistent enough, or the days when I felt like I was being lazy and I'd feel guilty about it, or when I felt like I didn't want to show up in my business. Like all of it was very predictable and very rhythmical. And I started using it in the back end of my business and started just, sharing it with the women that I was coaching at the time. And they were like, dude, this is game changing. Like, this is what more women need to know. So I think it was actually 2019-ish, 2020, somewhere right there around the COVID era. I can't remember. It was like right there where I closed down the membership that I had running and pivoted entirely to really helping women learn how our bodies are different and how it impacts the way we think and the way we create and how much we focus and all of those things. And it's been so amazing since. Yeah.
And those books are great that you mentioned, but they are both written by men that you, you
Yeah.
mentioned as
Yes.
well too. So I love that you're helping us. So what was the like game changing advice? Like, let's just get right to
Mm.
it. Like, what's the biggest like, light bulb that you're teaching women that's helping them so much?
Yeah, I think, well, one, just understanding how our hormones are. So, women aren't like when men have testosterone, it functions in a 24-hour rhythm. So, every day they wake up with a fresh dose of testosterone, they go to bed, they're kind of a little bit depleted in their testosterone. They get up, it's like the same day over and over and over again. So, like you said, a lot of the habits, a lot of the books, all of those things from written by men, studied by men, even that, like, did you realize like women are not studied? Like we were not included in medical studies and since the last couple decades. Like prior to that, women were not included. And if they were included, they had to be on birth control, which eliminates all of those hormone fluctuations. So I think understanding that men function daily and women have a 28-day or monthly rhythm instead. And so estrogen and progesterone, they feel very different. Estrogen, you're going to feel ready to go. You're going to feel confident. You're going to feel like, I got this. I'm taking things on, new ideas popping out. And then progesterone kicks in. And progesterone maybe makes you second guess yourself and makes you wonder if you actually have what it takes, makes you feel like maybe you're the world's worst mom. Like, I can actually do this. Like, what am I thinking? I was crazy for thinking I could start a business and run a business. And maybe I'm just going to burn all of it down and I'm horrible all the way around. Like they're starkly different, but they all have very unique gifts and skills. And so when we start to look at it from that perspective, we start to work with the hormone instead of just trying to force ourselves against it. So I think that's the thing. And when I say work against it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it sounds like ChatGPT. But I promise you, I'm not speaking like Chat.
No.
I'm like,
Oh no, this is real and unscripted, guys.
I hate ChatGPT that's stolen some of my key phrases. I'm like,
That's
oh,
the
like
worst.
they're my phrases, and now people think I'm just using ChatGPT.
No, that's
But
the worst.
I think the biggest thing is that it gives women so much permission to actually listen to what's going on, to not feel guilty, to know like, hey, I actually do need to take a break today. And that's okay. Like I'm good doing that. Or, I can't actually sit and focus today. I need to get up and go move and do something different. And that's okay too. And so it removes these expectations, I think, that we as women really hold ourselves to, whether it's coming from somebody else outside of us, if it's a social structure, a family structure, or whatever it might be, it kind of dismantles that a little bit. And I think that's one of the biggest things I hear from women over and over again is that sense of permission, that feeling of, well, there isn't something wrong with me that I feel this way. And I actually, if I lean into it and listen to it, I actually perform better and I actually feel better. And everybody around me feels better. So I think that's probably the biggest thing.
And it's easier to do this too when you are an entrepreneur because you can set your schedule. I know, like for me, like if there's a different season or if I have more energy, like feel like
Mm-hmm.
recording something. Okay, today's gonna be a recording day. I wake up, I'm like, was supposed to record, don't want to feel like it anymore. So I mean, I suppose and that's who you work with business owners too. So this
Yeah.
is probably really good for business owners having. What would you say would be like when you had said that there was productivity models that were never designed for the female body? I'm super
Yeah.
curious about that.
Yeah. Well, I think even when we look at like a typical 9 to 5, or like a corporate position, it's that it has that mentality of working the same every day. I actually recently recorded a reel that was like, people were coming at me, men, obviously, saying, oh, yeah, that's if you don't want to work the same, you shouldn't actually make the same amount of money either. And it's like you're justifying a pay gap, you know? But I was like, if we took a cup and we poured it little bits, little bits, little bits, little bits every day, and that cup filled up like men, that's fine. Or we could pour the cup really fast and get all of it in there and then sit back and let the cup sit there. The same job got done. It's not like the task wasn't completed. And so I think it's really looking at like that, like a lot of the constructs that we as society have conditioned of like going to work, you work a 9 to 5. I think even society is starting to break those. Like we see a lot of other companies now going to like a 4-day work week and different productivity models, like realizing that just because a person is there doesn't mean that they're actually productive. It doesn't mean that they're actually getting anything done. We see a lot more companies doing work from home, testing out what that looks like. There's a lot of things I think that are being challenged in terms of like what we look at productivity. But I think even just the typical work. And so if we looked at, like, I know you said entrepreneurs, there are things that people in those spaces can still glean from this information. So you may not be able to change how your company works. That, like, I love that for entrepreneurs. That's why I work with entrepreneurs, because I'm like, we can change this, change the way things are going forward. But you may not be in that position. You may be somewhere that somebody else is dictating your schedule. And my invitation for you would be to look at what can you actually shift? What can you change? Because even if you just change how you work out is going to impact the energy that you have that day. It's going to change how, if you are doing a HIIT workout and high heavy lifting all month long, that's very different on your body than if you adjusted based on where you are in your hormone cycle. Or maybe, you know, when you're in that high ovulation phase and you feel great, you actually do say yes to going out after work and hanging out with people. And then when you get into luteal, you're like, nope, I'm just going to go home today. So you can make small micro shifts and adjustments, even within that 9 to 5, that can support you drastically.
I love that. What are some natural ways then to improve your productivity, and how do you recommend finding the time then? Like
Yeah.
to work on your business or to be more, because I that's what I hear the most is like, I don't have the time. What
Mm-hmm.
would you say?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, this is one of my favorite hacks, is like putting your menstrual cycle in your calendar. So I use Google. So my menstrual cycle has its own Google calendar. So I can toggle it on or off if I want. And it's just in there as a repeating task, like all of the different phases. So even just before you and I hopped on, I was like, you know what? I'm going to host a free training next month. And so I go to my calendar and I look and I'm like, I can do it this week. And I'm like, oh, nope, that's my luteal phase. I'm not going to do it that week. And so it gives you that insight just to have it on your calendar. I think is step one. And that's a super easy one. It creates this sense of being able to do micro adjustments like that, right? I knowing that that's going to be a luteal phase probably won't have great energy. I'm not going to feel super confident and I'm going to feel great. So I'm going to move it 1 week forward and do it when I am feeling that way. So that's like a small micro thing. I think when we look at not having enough time, part of it is that we sit down and we actually try to get stuff done, but we're bouncing between 5,000 tabs. We've got all of these things that we have to get done. So we're not really actually very effective with any of the time that we get done. And I think knowing this, like understanding where your body and your brain's at, allows you to actually look at the tasks that you do need to do and say, which ones best fit where my body's at right now, because then you're going to get them done 10 times as fast. So if you know, hey, I actually need to write some social media content and I need to record some reels and I need to write some emails, and you sit down and you look at all of those things you need to get done and you're in your ovulation phase, then my recommendation would be like, hey, get those reels done, because you're going to get them done faster and easier and it's going to be quick, versus trying to force yourself to write when maybe you're not primed at that time. So I think that's also a really helpful thing in looking at productivity, is really making sure that the things you're doing match up with where your body's at and your brain's at. I'm sure you've been in that spot where you're like, I go from one tab to the next, to the next.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I just cannot focus right now. And
Yeah.
I'll sit there for hours. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got nothing done right now. Whereas if I had just gotten up, walked around, got my mind off of it, came back and said, okay, what is my body feeling right now? What can I actually get done? We'd be far more effective that way.
And I love this because now that I'm listening to you too, there's
Yeah.
such a great overlap because we do like planning, 90-day planning. I encourage like our
Mm-hmm.
clients to do their monthly plan, like the beginning of the
Yes.
month. We have our free planner that everyone can download, and then we have a monthly planner to plan out like your goals and your priorities for the
Yeah.
month. But now that you're saying this, I'm like, yeah, like that's like the next step of like, here's everything I need to do this month.
Mm-hmm.
When is the best week for that? For these
Yeah.
types of
Yes.
things. And I'm sure that's what you do too. So how do you
Yes.
plan how do you, I mean, you've told us a little bit
Yeah.
so far, but you plan a
Yeah.
month in advance, I would imagine then.
Yeah. So yes. And if we look, I love that you do the 90 days because
Yeah.
that's saying, it's like looking at it as a season. So my calendar is a little bit off from like the Gregorian calendar because I really function and like my community functions on Mother Nature. So we follow the seasons of the year rather than the months, like rather than, March or January through March. We look at December 21st through March 21st. That's winter. And so we kind of have a little bit of an adjustment there. And then the same with the lunar calendar. So we follow the lunar schedule instead of the actual January, February,
Love
March.
it.
Because that's the cycle that we're on. We're on. The men have this sun. The sun is their guidepost. If we look at Mother Nature, it's the moon for us.
Mm.
And there's belief that prior to artificial light, all women synced up to with the moon. And so I really do believe that there's some rhythm there intentionally. But so in my containers, like with my group, we function the same thing. 90 days, look at like, what are we going to get done? What's this
Yeah.
season look like? What is the energy of the season? Because spring is going to feel very different than summer. And then it's going to feel very different than winter. And so having that energy, that knowingness, just the awareness of it, right? You could take your 90-day plan that you guys do already and just say, okay, what is the energy of this season? Spring is very much like our follicular estrogen dominant phase where it's like go time. Let's spring clean. Let's get things moving. Let's things going. Like, let's get big projects off the ground. Let's get all that stuff going. It's a very high energy, like birthing new things, life into the world. And we get into summer, and summer is this fun, enjoyable, like experience. It's very our high. We want to be with friends. We want to
Yeah.
talk to people. We want to enjoy life. And then fall is about like reaping the rewards, like getting everything in, tightening things up, like nailing things back in, organization, like detail oriented. And then winter is that rest. And so we look at that 90-day plan and then you go down into the month and how do those same energies play out in my month too? How do I do that? So, your menstrual phase is that time when you're going to be planning it, looking at it, resting, recharging, recalibrating, looking at what are my goals? How did last month go? What do I want next month to look like? And then you get into that place of taking action and doing it and getting it off the ground. And then you're at your peak, you're feeling amazing and wonderful when you're ovulating. The world sees you as like there's so much research that women actually are perceived as more beautiful. You speak more eloquently, you feel more confident, like there's your skin changes, your glow like so fascinating. We're just like birds and things in the wild animals like that we're like fluffing our feathers. And then you move into that luteal phase, which is all about like reflecting it and pulling, like check the numbers. Like, what did it look like? Did it work? Do I want to change anything? And that same rhythm plays out all month long. So exactly what you're doing. It's just now taking in that layer of how's my menstrual cycle play into where I'm putting these things. So rather than putting them just on my calendar blindly, is there a time when my body actually is going to feel amazing at getting this done? And I'm going to stack it there. So maybe if it's podcasting, for instance, when you're ovulating, maybe you could take 6, 8, 10, whatever podcast interviews in one day that you want to do, get them all done because you're going to feel amazing. And then in that luteal phase, there's none of them. And so that's kind of how you can structure things so that it matches where your energy is actually going to be. That was
I
a
love
lot. I feel
that.
like I'm talking so
No,
fast
no,
right
that's
now.
great. It's great because it's mapping into everything I'm teaching lately as well too, because I've been talking a lot
hmm
about batching ahead and like kind of how that's a
hmm
way to like create less stress in your business.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so now you're like, here's when you should do it. So I'm like, oh, it's
Yes.
all coming together. I need to look at my
Totally.
calendar. Like so,
Yes.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So like batching, like it's beautiful, right? And so it's like I take a lot of like the time blocking and the batching and things like that, but weave it into where your cycle's at. So, you use those are principles that have been studied, right? The way our brain works. And in batching, we get into a task and we actually are more effective than when we change tasks and all those things. So like all the stuff you're teaching, it's now just like take an extra layer on top of that and you become even more effective. It's
I love
amazing.
that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so are you ready for our lightning round?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so what season of life and motherhood are you currently in?
Mm. So right now I'm in a big transition pivot phase. I got a lot of things moving. I have a lot of big things shifting. I recently have left. I was working in the NICU still, and so I've recently left the NICU. I have older kids. I'm like, my kids are going to grow up so fast. Like they do grow up fast, but I've got 15, 12, and 10. And so I'm really like staring down the barrel of them moving out of my house. So trying to just savor and soak all that up.
Awesome. What does
Yeah.
meaningful work mean to you right now?
I think the most meaningful for me right now is seeing the transitions and the changes in my clients. Like I really love showing up for them. I love being on calls with them. I love seeing their ahas and their breakthroughs. Like I'm not in business just to make money. Yes, making money is great, but like I'm not in business just to make money. I'm here to help people make an impact and make a change. And so I get just as excited about a win or think something that my clients have. And so I think for me, that would be the biggest thing. Yeah.
What's one thing motherhood or real life has taught you about success?
Mm. Um, you can never, you can never predict or plan where you're going to go. Like success is a choice. And in every situation that you're in, it is all a choice of how you perceive that. So, even this, me leaving the NICU recently was traumatic. It was not something that I was intending. I was not planning it. I love the NICU. I love working with my little babies and helping them. And it was not something that I was intending to do probably ever. And it was kind of a forced exit. And so, even in that, the whole thing through has been like, this is working out for me. There's something here for me. This is the path I'm supposed to be on. And I think when we have that approach, we will always be successful in life. Yeah.
What's one rhythm or routine helping you most lately?
Mm. My I'm like a big gratitude practice person in the morning. I notice starkly difference in my day. If I can get up in the morning and journal in my journal, I will journal my gratitude practice and I use it kind of as a manifestation tool too. So I have things in there that are actual in my reality that I'm so grateful for. And then I'll weave in things that I'm calling in and creating in my life. And I act as if I'm already have them and I'm grateful for them. But I notice a complete change in my energy if I do or don't do that.
What's one thing you're simplifying in this season?
Uh, I'm always looking at simplifying. That's my thing. I'm like, well, how do I make it simple? How do I make it simple? Even the other day, I was like telling one of my clients, I'm like, how do you make it stupid simple and so much fun? Like, pull those two things in, and everything's great. I think even for me, it's looking at, yeah, I would say, because I said everything I'm doing is all about simplicity, but I would say my offers right now is I've had a couple of different offers that I've had available, and I'm really just honing it into the one that lights me up the most right now. Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
What's one small habit that's made a big difference in your life?
Mm. The gratitude one, I think, is huge, like practicing gratitude. I would also add in their breathing. So,
Mm.
I became a breathwork facilitator a few years ago because of how much just breathing makes such a difference for me. And it's so easy. We can do it everywhere we are. But I think that intentionality to when I'm at a stoplight, I make sure I'm like breathing and I use my breath a lot, very strategically. So I would say that's probably a big one.
Good. I was just in a
Yeah.
workout class and the instructor did one with me. I think he was like nervous or something because I was on a treadmill. So he like walked me through. But it was
Yeah,
good. It was good because I like you, I don't often stop and just focus on my breathing, you know? So it was
totally.
good. It was really good.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's like we take it for granted. And I think that's a big part of it. It's like we take so much of our life for granted that if we stopped, and going back to that question about success, if we stopped and actually looked at what we have in our lives, I think all of our lives would be 100% different. I did a contentment practice last year, 2 years ago, something. I was like, I just want this year to be focused on how can I enjoy where I'm at right now? Not look at, can I double my numbers? Can I be more effective? Can I take more vacations? Can I do all these things? But like, how do I just get so content with where it is right now? And it was a complete game changer.
Hmm.
So it's just that
Yeah.
presencing. Yeah.
The longer you're in business too, it's like every year you're like, how can I just have fun? Like I just want to have fun and still, run my business. That's the
Yeah.
goals and be content, like you said.
Yes.
Um, are you a coffee shop workday or a work from home girl?
Totally work from home. I am a homebody overall for a lot of different of my life. Yes.
What book are you currently reading?
I'm actually reading, I don't know the name of it. I think it's called like Love Letters or something. It's one that I got just in one of the little book library, neighborhood library things, book things. I had no idea. So I've just been, it's a little pleasure romance book. Yeah.
What's bringing you joy lately?
I was doing dance class. So I started it's kind of an erotic dance class, but it's women only. And you go and shake and move and whatever. And it was so much fun. It's been so out of my comfort zone. It's helped me step into my body even so much more. And yeah, I haven't gone in the last couple of weeks, but that is when I was going multiple times a week for the last like 5 months. And it's a huge game changer for me.
What's one
Yeah.
encouragement you would give a busy mom listening today?
Oh, encouragement. I would say like just breathe, right? Because it's like the world is going by so fast. There's so much to do. There's always going to be. I recently watched a video from a woman who did like a year-long sabbatical. Like her and her husband took the kids traveling for a year and they just went around the world and then they never came home. They just kept going. But one of the things she recently said that I saw in one of her reels was she didn't realize how addicted she was to the urgency that we live in as in the Western world. And that it wasn't until she got out of it took a long time for her nervous system to respond to that. And I think we oftentimes don't recognize that, like how much we're caught in that urgency. I have to get it done now. It has to be fixed. It has to, whatever. And so I think that would be my encouragement is like, just take a pause and breathe
Yeah.
and realize it doesn't have to actually get done right now. It doesn't have to get done tomorrow. It may never need to get done. And there's always going to be a list of things that do need to be done. But you get to choose how you want to show up today. And so just breathe.
Just
Yeah.
breathe. We got
Yeah.
this. So where can people find out more about you? And you mentioned you have an audiobook too.
Yes, I actually have both a written book. So if you're in the United States, you can go over to reneefieck.com/free book. Or if you want the first couple chapters on the audiobook, I give those away for free too. So you can go over to reneefieck.com/chapter and grab, I think it's the first 3 chapters. So you can grab all those.
And spell your
Those
name too, just to make sure people get.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's RENAEF as in Frank, IECK.com. Or you can go to cyclesyncyourbusiness.com and you should be able to find it that way too. And then Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. Like I love hanging out over on Instagram. So if you're there, it's just same, my first and last name over there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
we'll have all the links below as well too. And thank you so much for joining us today. This was fun and hopefully I can get to San Diego. Maybe we can have a
Yeah,
coffee someday.
for sure. I
So
would love that. You're welcome anytime.
awesome. Awesome. Thanks for being here.